Chapter 58. Then, Mrs. Qin picked up the gift box beside her and handed it to Qin Yojiao. I asked a friend to buy this from overseas. Your grandfather will definitely like it. When the time comes, just tell Grandpa that you bought it. Do you understand? Hearing this, a dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she looked up to ask, Mom, is this very expensive? More than 2 million. Mrs. Qin caressed Qin Yojiao's head lovingly, unable to hide the love in her tone. Jiao, don't worry. With me around, I will definitely make grandfather value you again. Besides, my daughter is so outstanding. Thank you, Mom. Qin Yojiao was extremely touched and hugged Mrs. Qin excitedly, but she hid the smugness and disdain in her eyes. So what if Bei Yunj was the Qin family's biological daughter? In the end, all of this could only be hers. At this thought, Qin Yojiao's mood improved a lot. On the other hand, Mrs. Qin had been envied by many wealthy ladies because of Qin Yojiao's piano tour recently. They praised her whenever they saw her, making her complexion rosy. A dark look flashed past her eyes. No matter what, she had to protect Jiao. Otherwise, when others found out that Bei Yunj was her biological daughter in the future, she would lose a lot of face. So, at the door, Mr. Qin and Qin Lang were supporting a thin old man on both sides. Seeing this, Mrs. Qin immediately grabbed Qin Yojiao's hand and went forward with a smile. Dad, you're finally back. Hearing this, old Master Qin only glanced at her calmly before his eyes swept past Qin Yojiao. He froze for a moment before his expression darkened. Where's my gu? At this moment, before Mrs. Qin could get Qin Yojiao to greet old Master Qin, she heard old Master Qin's question and her expression immediately darkened. After Mrs. Qin's expression calmed down, she said with a smile, she probably hasn't arrived yet. She changed the topic and the meaning was unclear. However, Jiao is from the same school as her. But Jiao arrived very early. I don't know what she's busy with. Hearing this, Qin Lang's expression darkened. Was she saying that Ge was unfilial in front of grandfather? Then, Qin Lang was about to speak when he heard old Master Qin say angrily, You don't know what your daughter is busy with and you still have the cheek to say it. What if Ge ran into trouble along the way? What should we do? Qin Lang, she really didn't need his help. Grandpa was still the same as before, extremely biased. As expected, after being rebuked by old Master Qin, Mother Qin's expression changed again. Beside him, Qin Yojiao's body froze. She felt like she wasn't a member of the Qin family. That child doesn't need my concern. I wasn't the one who took care of her in the past. Mrs. Qin forced a smile onto her face. Dad, Jiao has been working very hard recently. She's ranked second in the entire cohort and even won the first prize in the competition. Soon, there will be a steal. Lang, hurry up and give Ge a call. Ask her if something happened to her. Old Master Qin turned his head and said worriedly to Qin Lang, if she gets bullied, she definitely won't say anything. This child has always treated himself as an orphan. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent. Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin looked even more embarrassed and speechless. Other than old Master Qin, no one dared to say such a big truth. Qin Lang held back his laughter and nodded. In front of the Qin couple and Qin Yojiao, he called Bei Yunj. Suddenly, a sound came from the door. Chapter 59. The girl's lazy voice was still clear and melodious. Instantly, everyone's eyes turned to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj walked towards them slowly from the door. In the end, her eyes landed on old Master Qin. Bei Yunj looked at the old man who couldn't suppress the joy in his eyes and hesitated for a moment. Grandpa, did something happen on the way? Or is there too much homework in school? Why did Ge lose so much weight? The more old Master Qin spoke, the more his heart ached. As he held Bei Yunj's hand, there was guilt and self-blame in his eyes. If his body was stronger, he could still keep Ge by his side and let Ge live a good life for another 10 to 20 years. However, fate made a fool of him. His body couldn't last more than a year or two. If he left, the person he was most worried about was Ge. At this thought, old Master Qin's eyes turned red. Bei Yunj could see that the old man in front of her was really good to her, but for a moment, it was difficult for her to accept the original protagonist's family. After a while, a faint helplessness appeared in Bei Yunj's eyes and she said with a soft laugh, "Grandpa, I fell asleep during self-study just now, so I didn't come in time." Hearing this, Qin Yojiao's expression was contemptuous and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. She fell asleep during self-study? How long could such a person stay in Hengda? Not only Qin Yojiao, Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin also frowned unconsciously. They didn't expect Bei Yunj to be so ignorant and incompetent. She even slept in class. However, when old Master Qin heard this, he pulled Bei Yunj's hand with a smile and walked into the hall. "That's good. As high school students, we have to know how to strike a balance between work and rest." Hearing old Master Qin's biased words, Mrs. Qin felt uncomfortable and said with a frown, "Jiao Jiao has to do exercises after a day of class. Sleeping in class? If she can't even get into university in the future, won't she be a joke?" The moment she finished speaking, Mother Qin felt old Master Qin's cold gaze and immediately shut her mouth. Then, old Master Qin laughed coldly. "Who dares to laugh at my granddaughter? The inheritance that I, Qin Kaming, leave behind is enough for my granddaughter to be happy for the rest of her life." These words made the Qin couple's expressions darken. Qin Yojiao was burning with jealousy, her expression unwilling and resentful. This damned old man, he wasn't biased at all. His heart was clearly running behind Bei Yunj. Old Master Qin was too lazy to pay attention to the three people beside him. Instead, he said to Bei Yunj kindly, "Good grandson, our family doesn't lack money. If you can't pass the exam, then so be it. In the future, your three brothers will support you. If they don't raise you, I'll break their legs." If it was in the past, Qin Lang would have scoffed. But now, Qin Lang's handsome face was full of caution as he looked at Bei Yunj's side profile. As long as Ger is willing, third brother will transfer all the money to Ger's bank account. Qin Yojiao's face turned green when she heard what Qin Lang said. Qin Lang's attitude towards Bei Yunj now was even more doting than before. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao bit her lip and tried her best not to lose her composure. Suddenly, Qin Yojiao pulled Mrs. Qin's hand, her expression dark. "Mom, should I not have come here?" Mrs. Qin's heart immediately ached and she immediately held Qin Yojiao's hand and said to old Master Qin, "Dad, Jiao Jiao has a gift for you. Jiao Jiao has prepared this for a long time to show her filial piety. Open it and take a look." Chapter 60. With that said, Qin Yojiao was about to hand over the gift box in her hand when she heard old Master Qin say calmly, Just finished school and must be hungry. Let's prepare to eat first." With that said, old Master Qin pulled Bei Yunj and sat on the side of the main seat. Usually, only the juniors that the elders liked the most had the chance to sit in this seat. Seeing this, Qin Yojiao's eyes darkened and her nails almost scratched her palm. Mrs. Qin could not help frowning. "Dad, Ah Ting used to sit in this seat. How can you let her sit here?" However, hearing this, old Master Qin was still unhappy. He was expressionless. "In that case, Ger will sit in the main seat. I'm an old man, so I can just move a stool and sit beside Ger." Mr. Qin immediately said, "Dad, you're joking. There's nothing particular about this seat. Whoever you want to sit beside you can sit beside you." "That's more like it." Old Master Qin snorted coldly and pulled Bei Yunj's hand to sit down. Seeing this, Qin Yojiao's eyes turned red with jealousy. Even when she was most doted on in the Qin family, she had never received such treatment. Qin Yojiao felt unbalanced and Mrs. Qin's expression did not look good either. "There's still some time before dinner. Dad, why don't you take a look at Jiao Jiao's gift first?" Mrs. Qin said persistently. Hearing this, old Master Qin furrowed his eyebrows. Qin Yojiao took this opportunity to place the gift box on the table and opened it gently. Inside was an early foreign silver ornament. It was not so expensive that it would make old Master Qin suspicious, nor would it be cheap. What was more important was its rarity. Mrs. Qin knew very well that old Master Qin had always liked foreign silverware. "You bought this?" Old Master Qin looked at Qin Yojiao. The price isn't low, right? Qin Yojiao lowered her head and nodded. But Grandpa likes it, so it's worth it no matter how expensive it is. Soon, old Master Qin sighed. He had watched this child grow up and she was indeed filial. However, Mr. and Mrs. Qin's preference for Qin Yojiao had indeed angered old Master Qin back then. This caused old Master Qin to fly into a rage. Thank you. Old Master Qin was still indifferent. Seeing this, Mother Qin smiled and said, Jiao Jiao has always been sensible. Then she asked casually, what did you buy for Grandpa? Bei Yunj looked up and met Mrs. Qin's eyes calmly. This made Mrs. Qin feel inexplicably guilty. Bei Yunj said calmly, I didn't buy it. Hearing this, mockery surfaced in Qin Yojiao's eyes. Mrs. Qin added, your grandfather just came back. Aren't you going to buy anything for him? Enough. Old Master Qin frowned. Her being healthy is the best gift to me. After saying that, before Mrs. Qin could retort, she heard Qin Lang ask leisurely, Mom, how much living expenses have you given Ge? Mrs. Qin choked on her words and her expression changed. What? Does Ge have any living expenses? Old Master Qin's face darkened. Mrs. Qin immediately panicked. No. I've always asked the butler to pay for my living expenses. Qin Lang laughed and said carelessly, I fired the butler. He only gave Ge 2,000 yuan a month for her living expenses. The rest was taken by him. 2,000? Old Master Qin slammed the table and stood up. He was so angry that he was dizzy and shouted at them, Are you her biological parents? Instantly, Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin panicked. Chapter 61. Dad, I don't know. I really don't know. Mrs. Qin immediately denied it, feeling even more annoyed. Why didn't Bei Yunj say something like this earlier? You don't know? You should be more concerned about Ge. How dare the servant bully Ge like this? Old Master Qin's vision turned black. Seeing that Old Master Qin was too emotional, Bei Yunj immediately held him. Grandpa, please sit down first. Bei Yunj helped Old Master Qin sit down and took out a paper bag. Inside was a red scarf. Grandpa, you'll only be able to use this gift in about 2 to 3 months. Bei Yunj laughed and her beautiful eyes curled up. The original protagonist had prepared this scarf for Old Master Qin. However, she had only knitted half of it. Last night, when she was done with the rest of the project, she suddenly remembered. So Bei Yunj also learned from the video and took it apart and knitted it for the whole night. Why you knitted this for Ge? Old Master Qin could not help asking excitedly. I don't know if Grandpa likes it. I like it, Grandpa likes it too much. Ge made this herself. It's better than anything else. Old Master Qin took out the scarf and looked at it. He smiled so widely that his eyes narrowed before he carefully put it back into the bag. Seeing this, Bei Yunj's lips curved. The contract with the Computing Institute had just been signed and the 3 months' salary had not been paid yet. As for Yu Manran, she had paid the deposit first. However, this was not enough for her to buy a gift for the old master. So Bei Yunj planned to make up for it on Old Master Qin's birthday later. However, seeing this, Qin Yojiao's expression was terrible and she was trembling with anger. She had given the old master a gift of 2 million yuan, but it could not compare to Bei Yunj's scarf that was less than 200 yuan. So, Mr. Qin apologized. Dad, this is our negligence. We didn't know this would happen. You weren't negligent, you were heartless. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Old Master Qin's words stabbed into the Qin couple's hearts. It made their expressions turn ugly. Qin Yojiao gritted her teeth in hatred and stared at Bei Yunj darkly. Why must Bei Yunj exist? If it weren't for Bei Yunj, she would be the only lady of the Qin family, and Old Master Qin wouldn't treat her like this. At this moment, however, Bei Yunj looked up and glanced at her playfully. Then he slowly poured himself a cup of tea. No one noticed that the girl who didn't even dare to raise her head back then had a languid expression on her face. Every frown and every movement was graceful. Qin Yojiao clenched her fists and pretended to smile. Yunj, you've suffered. However, if Grandpa dotes on me so much, it's worth it no matter how much I suffer. After saying this, everyone thought that Bei Yunj would say a few words to express his gratitude. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj only waited for the dishes to be served before slowly peeling the prawns. Then he placed it on the old man's plate. Grandpa, eat more. Our girl is still the most sensible one. She's clearly spoiling Grandpa. The old man, who used to be ruthless in the business world, was now smiling amiably. He was so coaxed that he was on cloud nine. This scene made the expressions of the three members of the Qin family turn terrible. In the past, Bei Yunj was overly doted on. Now, he even had the ability to coax the old man into a happy mood. Suddenly, a cheerful voice sounded from the door. I heard that old Master Qin is also here today. My father specially asked me to visit you. I don't know if I'm disturbing everyone. Hearing this, everyone looked at the young man who was walking over. Chapter 62. Old Master Qin and Mr. Qin knew the person who spoke just now. It was the heir of the Yu family, Yu Hanran, who often cooperated with the Qin family. He was handsome and charming, and he was also very popular outside. And the other person beside Yu Hanran was even harder to ignore. At this moment, Bei Yunj looked up and happened to meet that pair of pale-colored eyes. She was stunned. This was the first time she saw Huashidu dressed so formally. He was dressed in an expensive black handmade suit, making him look even more tall and noble. His deep and cold eyes exuded a sense of nonchalance. At this moment, the man inadvertently looked at the young lady's stunned expression and his lips unconsciously curled into a frivolous and casual smile. At the same time, Yu Hanran introduced, "Oh right. Old Master Qin, this is my friend, Huashidu." "Old Master Qin, I've heard a lot about you." Huashidu smiled. Old Master Qin quickly reacted with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. "You're that person from the Hua Corporation? Old Master Qin, if you don't mind, you can call me Shidu." Hearing this, Yu Hanran could not help but look at Huashidu. When did Master Du become so amiable? In the industry, he often met older generation partners. However, Master Du did not necessarily give them a chance to get close to him. All right. Please take a seat. Today is a family banquet. It's a pity that I didn't prepare a special reception for the two of you, Old Master Qin said with a smile. However, Old Master Qin also found it strange. In the past, the Yu family did not have much of a relationship with their family. Why would they suddenly visit them? Moreover, they actually met the heir of the Hua family. It's good that Old Master Qin doesn't mind me freeloading. Yu Hanran was obviously a talkative person and started to liven up the atmosphere. Bei Yunj also looked at Huashidu without hiding anything. She did not expect Huashidu to appear here. Unexpectedly, other than Bei Yunj, there was also Qin Lang, who had met Huashidu once. Wasn't this the man who had abducted his girl? However, Qin Lang did not show it, afraid that he would cause trouble for Bei Yunj. Suddenly, Mrs. Qin smiled and asked, "I wonder if Mr. Hua is married?" When Yu Hanran heard this, he seemed to have choked and started coughing. This Mrs. Qin was too bold. Did Huashidu still need her to worry about his marriage? Which of the top families in the country didn't want to marry into the Hua family? Moreover, this person was Huashidu. "No," Huashidu said. Immediately, Qin Youjiao's face flushed red. She did not dare to look at the man who had made her unable to look away the moment he entered the room. It had to be said that for girls of this age, such a handsome and mature man was simply a walking hormone. It was irresistible. "Oh, I see. Mr. Hua doesn't look that old." He and our Jiao. Before Mother Qin could finish speaking, she felt Old Master Qin's warning gaze. Then her voice stopped abruptly. She also felt uncomfortable. She couldn't possibly let Jiao miss out on such an outstanding man, right? Grandpa Sheng didn't allow her to introduce him to Jiao. Could it be that he was interested in Bei Yunj? Huashidu asked, "Jiao." Hearing the man call her name, Qin Youjiao's heart beat faster. In the next second, Huashidu's magnetic voice could not hide his low laughter. It was ostentatious and light. Chapter 63. Before Bei Yunj could pick up the food, she heard this. After that, the man's tone was neither fast nor slow. His lazy voice tickled her eardrums. However, older brother still likes Yun more. Instantly, all eyes were on her, from shock to disbelief. What was going on? These two knew each other? Suddenly, Qin Yojiao's face turned green and red. Her expression was extremely ugly as she looked at Bei Yunj instinctively. How did Bei Yunj know such a man? When old Master Qin mentioned the Hua surname just now, she suddenly remembered that her friend had mentioned the Hua family. Especially the current president of the Hua Corporation, Hua Shidu. Even though she was the young lady of the Qin family now, she knew that there was a certain gap between her and this man. But at this moment, she saw with her own eyes that this handsome and dignified man called Bei Yunj intimately. Hello. You know each other? Old Master Qin was the first to react and asked in disbelief. Bei Yunj glanced at Hua Shidu and said with a smile, "We met by chance." Hearing this, however, Yu Hanran, who was beside him, looked at Bei Yunj. The others were skeptical and thought that there might be nothing between the two of them, but he knew Master Du's temper very well. If there was nothing, why would Master Du, who had never been close to women, take the initiative to approach her? But then again, this girl was indeed eye-catching and beautiful. Suddenly, old Master Qin said with a smile, "Then it must be our girl who has troubled you, Mr. Hua." "It's not considered trouble." Hua Shidu smirked and saw that Bei Yunj was still staring at him. Suddenly, he chuckled faintly. His clear and magnetic voice was nonchalantly mocking. Yun, you're not even greeting me when you see me?" Bei Yunj calmed down and looked at him with a smile. "Brother Shidu." The girl's voice was pleasant. It was not sweet, but it was inexplicably flirtatious. However, when she called him Brother Shidu, it made the man's eyes darken and hide all the light in them. His throat was a little itchy. No one noticed anything strange on Hua Shidu's face. However, Qin Yojiao could not help but speak up. "Mr. Hua, my name is Qin Yojiao." She blushed. "You can call me Jiao Jiao." Hua Shidu did not even bat an eyelid. He hummed perfunctorily, indicating that he understood. This completely different treatment made Qin Yojiao's face turn red and pale, as she bit her lip tightly. Why was this man so intimate with Bei Yunj? But when facing her, he was the complete opposite? When Mrs. Qin saw that Qin Yojiao's eyes were red, she immediately smiled and said, "A person like Mr. Hua must have been outstanding since he was a child. Our Jiao Jiao is the same. She won't lose to anyone in any aspect." Speaking of this, Mrs. Qin seemed to glare at Bei Yunj, who was beside her. However, she didn't notice that the man's gaze was turning cold. Mother Qin's words made even Yu Hanran frown. What's wrong with Mrs. Qin? She felt that the one called Jiao Jiao was her biological daughter. The other one was like Cinderella in her stepmother's house. "All right, what do you look like as the matriarch of the household?" Old Master Qin's expression darkened when he saw that Mrs. Qin could not wait to let Qin Yojiao get familiar with Hua Shidu. "I'm just afraid that Mr. Hua will be too bored here, so I let Jiao Jiao chat with Mr. Hua," Mrs. Qin said awkwardly. Chapter 64. Old Master Qin was expressionless and his words made Mrs. Qin's face turn red and pale. Mr. Qin hurriedly saved the situation. "Dad is right. Let's eat first. Let's all eat." Hearing this, everyone started to eat in silence. Only old Master Qin cared about Bei Yunj from time to time. The Qin couple beside them did not look too good. Not to mention Qin Yojiao. Until the end of the meal, Mr. Qin said respectfully to old Master Qin, "Dad, I spent a lot of time contacting Dr. Fang Gisheng recently. Why don't I accompany you to Ming City after a while and see if there's a better treatment?" "Fang Gisheng? Isn't it very difficult to invite Dr. Fang?" Old Master Qin had heard of this neurologist before. He was very famous in the industry. However, this person was arrogant and was not easy to invite. Hearing this, Mr. Qin's eyes were filled with pride and he said with a smile, "Dr. Fang gave a speech in Hengda previously and had a deep impression of Jiao Jiao. This time, he did it for Jiao Jiao's sake." With that said, old Master Qin did not expect this either. However, Qin Yojiao lowered her head shyly and said softly, I didn't help much. It's just that Dr. Fang happened to be free, so he gave me face. Jiao Jiao, why are you being so humble in front of your own family? Why does Dr. Fang only give face to Jiao Jiao and not others? Mrs. Qin smiled dotingly and said to old Master Qin, Dad, Jiao Jiao is really concerned about your matters. Apart from the 2 million yuan gift this time, she's also very concerned about your condition and hopes that you can recover soon. With that said, Mrs. Qin could not help but glance at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj was sitting by the sofa, playing with her phone and had no intention of looking up to speak. She smirked and a trace of disgust flashed past her eyes as she turned her head away. However, she did not expect this scene to be seen by the man beside her. On the other side, Bei Yunj supported her head with one hand and saw a message. Hello Miss Pei. I'm Stephen from our nation's medical institute. Then, before Bei Yunj could click agree, she saw 2 more messages. Sorry, I blacklisted Marcus 2 days ago. I only saw your project today. Stephen, I really like your project. Are you willing to cooperate with me? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She could tell that Mr. Stephen was quite anxious. She quickly agreed. Why? Gee, this project has been completed. If Mr. Stephen likes it, I can give you a follow-up. However, I have an important relative who needs brain surgery. I wonder if Mr. Stephen can help? At this moment, far away in an overseas research institute, Stephen's eyes lit up and he became excited. He quickly replied to Bei Yunj. Of course. Any time is fine. However, Miss Pei, can you give me a medical record first? This was a chance to get closer to the boss. They might even be able to secretly poach people from the computing institute into their medical institute. However, after reading Stephen's message, Bei Yunj thought for a moment and turned to ask old Master Qin. Grandpa, can I have a copy of your medical record? Old Master Qin asked instinctively, Oh, why do you want the medical record? Yunj, don't mess around. Jiao Jiao invited Dr. Fang to be the attending doctor for Grandpa. Mr. Qin frowned. Chapter 65. Bei Yunj looked at him. Can Dr. Fang cure Grandpa 100%? Mr. Qin choked. Although Fang Gusheng was a famous doctor in the field of neurology, he could not guarantee that he could cure Grandpa 100%. Back then, after Dr. Fang read old Master Qin's medical record, he only said that he could try his best to let old Master Qin live for a few more years. If Dr. Fang can't, why don't you let other doctors try? Bei Yunj looked at him calmly. Bei Yunj, don't treat your grandfather's life lightly. What doctor can you know? Do you not even know about quacks without a doctor's license? Are you comparing yourself to Dr. Fang? Enough. Old Master Qin's face was livid as he glanced at them coldly. When Mrs. Qin moved her mouth and could not say a word, old Master Qin asked the butler to bring the medical record over. Old Master Qin took the medical record and walked to Bei Yunj. He handed it to her and touched Bei Yunj's head. Old Master Qin's face was full of affection. Gu'er is a filial child. Grandpa understands. Bei Yunj was stunned for a moment. She took the medical record and the corners of her lips gradually curled up. Grandpa, don't worry. A dark glint flashed across her beautiful eyes, but her tone sounded like she was joking. As long as there is a 1% success rate, even if I have to go to the gates of hell, I will drag you back. Not many people took her words seriously. However, old Master Qin's eyes were red. He reached out and hugged Bei Yunj. At his age, he was not afraid of death. The only thing he was afraid of was that Ge was not doing well. Old Master Qin laughed and hid the tremble in his voice. Okay, Grandpa hasn't seen Ge get married yet. I can't bear to leave. Hearing this, Yu Hanran instinctively looked at Huashidu beside him. He saw Huashidu standing at the side. His well-defined hand tugged at his tie impatiently, and the tip of his throat moved. His usually lazy pale-colored eyes were filled with coldness and unreadable emotions. His aura was even more oppressive. Huashidu had guessed that Bei Yunj was not favored at home. Otherwise, She wouldn't have hugged a strange man's neck and asked him to take her away instead of going back with her brother. But what he didn't expect was that the Qin family situation was worse than he had imagined. If it weren't for the fact that old Master Qin was around and didn't need his protection, he would probably have taken the little girl away. Stephen was still waiting. Bei Yunj roughly finished reading the medical record and translated it briefly for Stephen. She also sent him the CT scan taken at the hospital. It was daytime in Country R now, so the results would probably be out soon. Bei Yunj knew that old Master Qin's condition had worsened. The longer they delayed, the more dangerous it would be. However, not long after Bei Yunj uploaded the video, Stephen quickly replied. Stephen, this surgery is not a problem, but it must be done as soon as possible. Also, Miss Pei, send me the complete medical record tomorrow. Bei Yunj unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled and continued to chat with him. Why? Gee. All right, thank you, Mr. Stephen. Gee. When will Mr. Stephen be free? Where is the surgery? Stephen, since you're not feeling well, I'll go to Yuncheng. How about next Wednesday? I can also talk to Miss Pei about the project. Seeing this message, Bei Yunj was a little surprised. She knew that Stephen had placed her old master's matter first. Why? Gee. Okay, thank you very much. After chatting. Chapter 66. After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she asked, Brother, why are you here? It's noisy inside. The man was tall and had long legs. His exquisitely tailored black suit made him look lazy and dignified. Just a casual glance from his pale-colored eyes could make one's legs turn weak. This was a mature aura that the boys in school could not compare to. Child, were you adopted? The man leaned closer and sized her up carelessly. His magnetic voice was low and sexy. Bei Yunj seemed to have smelled the faint smell of alcohol on the man. She hesitated for a moment. Brother, did you drink? Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by a voice not far away. Jiao Jiao, don't go. What will happen to Mom if you leave? Qin Yojiao ran out of the hall crying and accidentally fell to the ground. Mrs. Qin chased after her anxiously. She hurriedly helped her up, her eyes filled with heartache. Jiao Jiao, did it hurt? Mom, I'm not from the Qin family. I'm an outsider. Qin Yojiao sobbed. Mrs. Qin hugged Qin Yojiao. No, Jiao Jiao will always be my only daughter. Jiao Jiao, Dad raised you for 19 years. How could I treat you as an outsider? Mr. Qin had always been calm, but he also showed his nervousness towards Qin Yojiao. Not far away. This scene of family harmony was reflected in Bei Yunj's eyes. Bei Yunj was still smiling, but her smile did not reach her eyes. But she did not notice. The man's eyes were dark and unreadable. His gaze was calm, but inexplicably aggressive. In the next second, he reached out his slender hand and pulled up Bei Yunj's wide hood frivolously. Before Bei Yunj could react, the hood covered half of her face. Her vision was covered immediately. She only heard the man's casual voice. It was a little magnetic, but also a little seductive. What are you looking at? Are you prettier than me? Bei Yunj was a little afraid of the dark. She looked up instinctively, only revealing her exquisite chin. The man's gaze happened to land on her red lips. He was a little careless. Bei Yunj had already grabbed the hem of Huashidu's suit instinctively and was extremely close to him. Subsequently, she was just about to take off her hat when he grabbed her hand. With a slight push, Bei Yunj fell forward and crashed into the man's muscular chest. You? Bei Yunj looked up, but she could not see Huashidu's lips curling up. His gaze was fixed on her. She heard the man's joyful voice ringing out. Her laughter was very charming. There's nothing to see, Yin. His slender, jade-like hand intimately pinched the back of her neck. Bei Yunj felt her spine go numb and her body go limp. He almost lost his balance. What was wrong with this man today? She was seducing people endlessly? Not far away. Qin Yojiao had just been comforted by the Qin couple and there was a smug look in her eyes as she tried to find Bei Yunj. However, he didn't expect to see Bei Yunj with a hoodie covering her head. She had just steadied herself with one hand on the man's waist. The elegant and handsome man stared straight at Bei Yunj. He seemed to be deliberately teasing her. The atmosphere was not heavy at all. She also didn't see Bei Yunj's disheveled appearance that she wanted to see. Instantly, Qin Youjiao's expression darkened even more. The jealousy in her heart surged and burned with jealousy. Bei Yunj used to care about the Qin couple's attitude towards her the most. But now, she was actually flirting with another man and didn't care at all. Chapter 67. Over here. Before Bei Yunj could take off her hat, she heard the man's lazy voice. Yun, don't keep touching my waist secretly. Bei Yunj had just taken off her hat and was about to speak when she met the man's light eyes so closely for the first time. She knew that the man's eyes were good-looking and the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. They should be filled with affection. However, there was only indifference and coldness in his pale-colored pupils. They were like the cold moon hanging high in the sky. Instantly, Bei Yunj's anger dissipated. This type of abstinent, refined scum was completely her type of sniper. However, Huashidu looked at the little girl in front of him. She gradually calmed down and looked at him without hiding anything. She was straightforward and bold. Why are you looking at me in a daze? Huashidu laughed lazily and scratched her chin with his slender hand. It was no different from playing with a cat. Bei Yunj was about to speak when old Master Qin's voice sounded from behind. Why all of you are trying to anger me to death? Bei Yunj turned around instinctively and saw Qin Lang supporting old Master Qin out. The old master's expression did not look too good. Seeing this, Bei Yunj was about to walk over when she was stopped by Huashidu. Yun, older brother has something to tell your grandfather. Can you wait for me in the car first? Bei Yunj froze for a moment. She glanced at the situation and suddenly regained her senses. Huashidu probably didn't want her to look at Qin Youjiao and to the rest on purpose just now. She suppressed her thoughts and took the keys from Huashidu. In the hall, old Master Qin started to reprimand the Qin couple with a cold expression. What the hell are you doing? Or isn't your daughter and you didn't even announce it? Why are you hiding this from me? Do you think that I won't live for another year or two anyway? Hearing this, Mr. Qin looked flustered. Dad, it's not like that. If it's not like that, what is it? Is this how you treat my granddaughter? Thinking of how nervous this couple was when they ran out just now to comfort Qin Youjiao, old Master Qin wanted to chase them out. She's not your biological daughter. You value her more than anything else. Old Master Qin's face was livid. Mother Qin pursed her lips and said unwillingly, Dad, you can't be so biased. Bei Yunj is your granddaughter, and you watched Jiao Jiao grow up. That still can't compare to my own granddaughter. At this point, old Master Qin seemed to be too angry and clutched his throbbing heart. This scene made Qin Lang nervous again. Grandpa, are you all right? When they were inside, old Master Qin had almost fainted from anger, giving Qin Lang a fright. The Mr. and Mrs. Qin also became nervous as guilt rose in their hearts. After that, suddenly, there was a sound at the door. Old Mr. Qin, please take a seat first. When everyone heard this, they turned around and realized that it was Huashidu. Yu Hanran, who was watching the commotion, immediately stood up and wanted to speak to Huashidu. However, he heard Huashidu say, You can go back first. I still have something on. Yu Hanran was speechless. Was Master Du treating him as a tool? He asked him to bring him to the Qin family and now he was chasing him away. Master Du, aren't we leaving together? Yu Hanran said with a thick-skinned smile. Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at him indifferently. Chapter 68. After Yu Hanran left, Mr. Qin, who was beside him, said hesitantly, Mr. Hua, I came in a hurry today and didn't have time to choose a gift. Huashidu's tone was neither fast nor slow. Everyone in the hall was stunned. Then, they saw Huashidu walk in front of old Master Qin. His well-defined hand placed a brand new cooperation agreement on the table. This is my gift to Yun. With that said, Mr. and Mrs. Qin's expressions changed. On the other hand, Qin Yojiao, who had not dared to make a sound and had hatred in her eyes, turned pale and bit her lip tightly. She looked at the noble and casual man in front of her in disbelief. Mr. Hua Hu, old Master Qin, was also stunned for a moment and did not look at the contents of the agreement. I heard from Mrs. Qin just now that Yun only gave old Master Qin a scarf she knitted herself. The man's thin red lips curled up and his tone was casual, but it was straightforward and ostentatious, not hiding his indulgence. She's a little childish. But the way little girls express their likes has never been subtle. However, since Mrs. Qin thinks it's not suitable, I'll make up for it for Yun. Hearing this, old Master Qin instinctively looked at the agreement and could not help but pause. It was the 3-year cooperation plan between the Hua Corporation and the Qin Corporation. One had to know that with the Qin Corporation's qualifications, it was impossible for them to cooperate with a corporation like the Hua Corporation. Working with such a corporation, other than allowing the Qin Corporation to expand their connections, just the profits brought by this cooperation alone were comparable to the total output of the Qin Corporation for a few years. Besides, the Qin Corporation almost took the majority of the profits from this agreement. Mr. Hua, your gift is too expensive. I can't accept it. Old Master Qin immediately rejected him. If he really took this agreement, wouldn't he be selling his granddaughter? At this moment, when Mrs. Qin and the rest heard this, they could roughly guess the value of that contract. Mr. Hua, why do you want to give Yunj a gift? Mrs. Qin's expression softened. Mrs. Qin did not think that this man in front of her was someone who would cause trouble for himself. However, with his status, it was impossible for him to like Bei Yunj. You can't blame Yun for this. The man had a hand in his pocket, his tone lazy and playful. I've been too busy these 2 days and forgot to prepare a gift for Yun. Let her bring it over. As soon as he finished speaking, immediately, everyone present froze and instinctively looked at Huashidu. Did this Mr. Hua mean that Pei Yunj was staying with him now? Qin Lang, on the other hand, was completely stunned. What was Qin Yu doing? Wasn't this man the one who had carried Ger away in front of him? How could he let Ger live with him, suddenly? What? Old Master Qin was stunned. Is she staying at your place? At the same time, the Qin couple's expressions changed. They knew that old Master Qin was going to hold them accountable again. However, Qin Yojiao's thoughts were still on what Huashidu had said just now. Bei Yunj had actually moved into Huashidu's house? How could this be? Qin Yojiao's expression was livid as it twisted a little. She had always thought that Bei Yunj was living alone, lonely and pitiful, yes. Huashidu admitted it calmly, his gaze lazy and indifferent. Old Master Qin, I'm sorry. Previously, I didn't want old Master Qin to be unhappy with Yun because of this, so I didn't mention it. Chapter 69. After that, he glanced at Mr. and Mrs. Qin and snorted ambiguously, his lips curling up. But if Yun is happy staying here, she won't run out alone at night. Hearing this, old Master Qin's heart ached for Bei Yunj. He glanced at Mr. and Mrs. Qin with a dark expression. In the end, he took a deep breath and suppressed his anger before he turned to look at Huashidu. Thank you, Mr. Hua, for taking care of Ger during this period of time. However, will it be too troublesome for you in the future? Old Master Qin was still worried. After all, Bei Yunj was a girl, and it was not good for her to stay in a strange man's house. Yun isn't troublesome. Huashidu's words made old Master Qin pause for a moment. After a while, he could not help but size up the man in front of him. He was good-looking, the heir of the Hua family, and an unreachable elite in everyone's eyes. It could be said that he was impeccable. It was no wonder that Mrs. Qin would think of a way to get Qin Yojiao and Huashidu together. After that, as expected, Mother Qin opened her mouth. Yunj is a girl after all. It's not convenient for her to stay at Mr. Hua's place. Why don't we let Yunj go back? I think it's quite good to stay at Mr. Hua's place. Old Master Qin interrupted calmly. He still had to think for Ge. In the future, if he was no longer around after a year, Ge would have someone to protect her. Dad, but it's not like our Qin family can't afford to raise her. How can she stay in someone else's house? Mrs. Qin's expression did not look too good. We can afford to raise her, but her biological parents are worse than her step-parents. Old Master Qin chuckled. Ignoring how terrible Mr. and Mrs. Qin's expressions were, he said to Hua Shidu with a smile, Mr. Hua, in that case, Gu will have to trouble you in the future. However, you should take this agreement back first. It's too expensive. If Old Master Qin really minds, you can treat it as a gift from Yun Yun. Hua Shidu's thin lips suddenly curled up. However, I also want to ask Old Master Qin for a promise on behalf of Yun Yun. What promise? Old Master Qin asked. In the next second, Hua Shidu's low and magnetic voice sounded slowly. Yun Yun is one of the 4 heirs of the Qin family. One of the 4 heirs. Other than the 3 older brothers, Pei Yunj had to be the only heir. Shortly after, the Qin couple's faces turned pale. Qin Youjiao's nails dug into her flesh. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she trembled all over. Everyone could tell who Hua Shidu was doing this for. Dad, Jiao Jiao has been with us for so many years, how could she? Mother Qin panicked and hurriedly tugged at Father Qin's hand, hinting for him to persuade him. Mr. Qin regained his senses and chimed in. Mr. Hua, although Jiao Jiao is not our biological daughter, she is still a member of the Qin family. I hope Mr. Hua won't take what happened today to heart. Yes, actually, Jiao Jiao's personality is also very good. If Yunj said anything to you, Mr. Hua, it's not true. Mrs. Qin hurriedly explained for Qin Youjiao. Does Mr. Hua also think that I snatched all of this from Bei Yunj? Qin Youjiao asked. She bit her lips again with a stubborn look on her face. Hua Shidu glanced at her indifferently, looking lazy and casual. Seeing this, Qin Youjiao shut her mouth inexplicably, not daring to speak again. Did she agree to let you take it? Chapter 70. In that instant, Qin Youjiao's face was pale and her lips trembled slightly, but she could not say anything. Hua Shidu had just returned when he saw Bei Yunj sitting by the front passenger seat with her head propped up. Brother? Bei Yunj saw Hua Shidu very quickly and asked, Did you drink? Sing Su will come and drive later. With that said, Bei Yunj opened the car door, as if she wanted to sit in the back seat with him and ask him something. He smirked silently and opened the back door, letting Bei Yunj get in first. Within moments, Hua Shidu sat beside Bei Yunj and closed the car door. The atmosphere in the car was silent, but it was not awkward. Bei Yunj quickly interrupted the atmosphere. Brother, where did you go just now? She asked again, Did you tell my old master that I'm staying with you? Hua Shidu tugged at his tie impatiently and threw it aside. He loosened 2 buttons and leaned against the seat lazily. His long legs were crossed casually and he looked refined and indifferent. But Bei Yunj could not help asking. Hearing this, the man looked up slightly and stared straight at her with his pale-colored eyes. In the next second, the man's low and magnetic laughter made his sexy Adam's apple move. It was pleasant and sexy. It's not easy to raise a young lady. I got some fees from the old master. Bei Yunj's eyelids moved slightly. What did the old master say? His tone was casual. He told you to listen to me and study hard. Don't fall in love early. Got it. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she could not help but look at Hua Shidu. She had a feeling that there was something wrong with this man's condition today. Usually, this man liked to tease her, but it was not like today. His lazy appearance looked seductive from the bottom of his bones. He was inexplicably frivolous and lazy, making her blush and her heart race. He looked like a refined scum. The next morning, before Bei Yunj woke up, she heard movement at the door. It sounded like a woman's voice. Then, she frowned, but before she could react, the door was suddenly opened. Master Du, I've brought you breakfast. How long do you want to arrange Mrs. Tutoring? A woman's voice entered the bedroom, bringing with it a strong smell of perfume. It directly covered the original aura of the bedroom. Immediately, Bei Yunj didn't feel sleepy at all. She rubbed her eyes with her palms, and the coldness and irritation in her eyes disappeared in a flash. At the same time, The woman walked in and placed the tray on the table in a virtuous manner. Then, she turned to look at the bed with a smile. However, at this time, she did not see the man she expected to see. All he saw was the person on the bed, her fair and tender arms, as well as her soft, jet-black hair. In an instant, the woman's expression changed, and she looked at this scene with an embarrassed expression. How could it be a woman? This room, this decoration, it was clearly a man's room. Without waiting for the woman's expression to ease, the person on the bed slowly sat up, revealing her bright and charming face. Bei Yunj lazily put on her slippers and stood up. Her legs were slender and fair under the nightgown. "Tutor me?" Bei Yunj laughed and asked again. In an instant, the woman's face turned red and green. She forced a smile. Yes, Mississippi, it was not easy for her to fight for the opportunity to be a tutor at Master Du's house. At first, she thought that Master Du's sister needed tuition. Chapter 71. Wait for me downstairs. Bei Yunj had just woken up and her tone was lazy. On the other hand, the woman glanced at Bei Yunj unwillingly and clenched her fists tightly. She had also graduated from a prestigious university and her appearance and family background were not bad. She actually had to tutor a high school student who was being supported by a mistress. The woman did not think that this overly good-looking girl in front of her would have any shocking background. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Bei Yunj glanced at her with a faint smile. Instantly, the woman shivered inexplicably and left the bedroom immediately. 10 minutes later, after Bei Yunj washed up, she changed her clothes and went downstairs. She looked up and saw the woman sitting by the sofa. She was wearing a tight V-neck chiffon dress that accentuated her curves. However, she did not seem to be here for tutoring. Otherwise, she would not have gone upstairs with breakfast and opened Huashidu's door directly. The woman also heard the commotion on the stairs and immediately said with a smile, "Miss, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were sleeping there. It's okay. I didn't expect the teacher to be so enthusiastic either." Bei Yunj smiled slowly. These words made the woman's face turn red. "When do we start?" Bei Yunj asked. Although Bei Yunj looked free and unrestrained, she did not like to trouble people. Since this was a tutor hired by Huashidu, she would not let him worry about this. She did not need tutoring either. "You can start after you're done with breakfast." The woman said with a fake smile, but she could not help feeling jealous. How could such an ignorant little girl attract Master Du's interest? However, now that she could stay here, she would definitely have a chance to see Master Du when that time came. Master Du would know the benefits of a mature woman and would not like such an insensible little girl. At this thought, the woman's expression softened and she waited patiently by the side. At the dining table, Bei Yunj ate breakfast and sent the translated medical record to Stephen. At this moment, Aunt Meow walked over unhappily and glanced at the person on the sofa with disgust. "Miss Yunj, this woman doesn't seem to have any manners. If you don't like her, why don't you change her?" Auntie Meow had seen the woman's series of actions just now. How could she not know what she was thinking? Old mistress definitely wouldn't like such a seductive appearance. "I'm fine." Bei Yunj curled her lips and didn't seem to mind. "But will this woman teach you wholeheartedly?" Aunt Meow frowned. "Let's give it a try." "Aunt Meow, there's nothing much to do today. You should go and rest." When Auntie Meow heard this, she smiled helplessly and said, "All right, keep an eye on this woman too. Don't let her get away with it." After that, before leaving, Auntie Meow gave Bei Yunj a meaningful look that was filled with encouragement and determination. Bei Yunj's chopsticks paused. Question mark. By the time Bei Yunj finished her breakfast, more than half an hour had passed. Beside the coffee table in the hall, the woman asked Bei Yunj to take out her books first. The moment she opened the exercise book, she saw that it was filled with mistakes. It was a tragic sight. A trace of sarcasm flashed past her eyes. Her face was not bad, but she was indeed an idiot. Then, the woman smiled, her tone filled with disdain. "Miss, it's very difficult for you to learn well with your foundation. So I will be more strict in the following tutoring. I hope you can cooperate as much as possible." Chapter 72. When Bei Yunj saw this, the corners of his lips curled up, but his smile did not reach his eyes. Teacher, I think you might have misunderstood something. The sarcasm on the woman's face froze. After that, she then heard Bei Yunj say playfully, whether I learn it or not depends on your ability. The woman could not hold back her expression. If you don't learn, how can I teach you? How's your daily salary? Bei Yunj asked unhurriedly. Instantly, the woman pursed her lips and could only stare gloomily at Bei Yunj. Her daily salary was more than 10 times the market rate. Hence, even if it was not because of Master Du, this job was still very tempting. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes curled up and became even gentler. So, teacher, you'd better be obedient. The woman accidentally met Bei Yunj's eyes, but for some reason she felt a chill run down her spine. In the end, the woman did not dare to let Bei Yunj copy it. Instead, she held the exercise book and thought that Bei Yunj did not know anything, so she explained randomly. Until noon. Auntie Miao went to look for Bei Yunj for lunch. Only then did the woman sneak out of the door and called Xingsu to complain about Bei Yunj. In the company. After hearing this, Huashidu did not even lift his thin eyelids. His tone was indifferent. Change a tutor. When Xingsu heard this, he could not help but look at Huashidu. If this had happened to the little young master, he would have probably been punished. But if it was Miss Pei, she would remove him from the tutor? Master Du, why don't we change to a better-looking male tutor? Xingsu thought that he was smart. Girls will be more obedient to good-looking men. The man's eyelids twitched slightly. His sneer was a little cold and indescribably dangerous. You know how to cater to her interests. Xingsu's scalp went numb, and he immediately sobered up. He immediately changed his words. Actually, Miss Pei is easily tempted at her age. I think it's better for a female tutor. Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at him indifferently. The pressure he felt was overwhelming. The man lowered his eyes. Xingsu had just heaved a sigh of relief when he heard him say casually, "Come back with me later." When Xingsu heard this, he understood that Huashidu wanted to go back and visit Bei Yunj. Afternoon. Bei Yunj continued to be tutored, but the woman was obviously absent-minded and made a few mistakes. Suddenly, the woman glanced at the figure outside the door and her eyes lit up. She immediately turned to look at Bei Yunj. Did you understand the question just now? Bei Yunj had just finished replying to the message from the Computing Institute and glanced at the question. Her tone was perfunctory. Then tell me about it. A strange light flashed through the woman's eyes. Who knew? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. You don't know how? At this moment, Huashidu and Assistant Singh, who had just walked in, heard this conversation. Assistant Singh's eyelids twitched. With Miss Pei's attitude, Master Du might even fill up little young master's classes. Miss Pei, I've just explained this question. With your attitude, it's useless even if I explain it 100 times, the woman said aggrievedly. Bei Yunj did not speak. From the corner of her eye, she saw the man walking over. Brother. Bei Yunj's eyes curved and her gaze was very clear. Why are you here? Even if he was angry, he had to calm down when he saw this harmless appearance. You don't understand the question? Huashidu walked to Bei Yunj's side. Before Bei Yunj could speak, the woman explained, it's Mrs. Attitude that's not right. Chapter 73. Bei Yunj glanced at her. The woman averted her gaze, but quickly looked up and met Bei Yunj's eyes, looking smug. Who knew? The next moment, the man's tone was light. Xingsu, settle her daily salary. You don't have to teach her in the future. Instantly, the woman's expression changed, and she looked at Huashidu. She could not understand why she was the one who was switched. Master Du, this is not my fault. The woman sounded aggrieved. Huashidu's gaze shifted away from the exercise book. Which question were you teaching her just now? The woman said, the last question. This is your answer? Huashidu's lazy and indifferent eyes were cold and dangerous. The woman paused and looked at the question a few more times before realizing that she had calculated wrongly. Her pupils constricted and her face turned green and red. she hurriedly explained, Master Du, this was an accident. Hua Shidu picked up the cigarette box at the side and sat by the sofa casually. His voice was low and magnetic. Child, go upstairs first. I want to talk to you later. Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched. She felt that she would be in trouble too. Every time Hua Shidu called her like this, nothing good would happen. Bei Yunj went upstairs. Then, the atmosphere became even more silent and cold. The man's gaze was lazy and the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. He flicked the cigarette ash with his fingers. His casual appearance made people not dare to breathe loudly. Fear appeared in the woman's eyes and she could not help but say gently, Master Du, give me another chance. I will definitely teach Miss well. Hua Shidu glanced at her calmly and asked indifferently, Do you think you look like a teacher? In an instant, the woman's face turned pale and her body stiffened. Tsing Su, who was at the side, felt a chill down his spine. After all, Master Du had handed this task to him, indeed. The man looked up, his gaze oppressive and dangerous. Tsing Su, is this what you did for me? Tsing Su's scalp turned numb, but he immediately walked in front of Hua Shidu and lowered his head to admit it. Master Du, I'm sorry. This is my fault. I don't want this to happen again. With that, Hua Shidu extinguished the cigarette and turned to go upstairs. The woman's expression was unsightly, and she had yet to recover from her fear. When she thought of the man's gaze just now, she felt a little unsteady on her feet, and her back broke out in cold sweat. All right, it's time for you to leave. Tsing Su's voice interrupted her thoughts, and she heard him say coldly, Anyone with a brain would know whether or not to tell anyone about what happened here. The woman's face was pale, but her body was still trembling. I understand. Second floor. Bei Yunj supported her head with her hands and began to do her homework with a strong will to survive. But soon she heard a knock on the door, and the door opened. Bei Yunj put down her pen and turned to look at Hua Shidu. Her unbelievably beautiful eyes curled up. Brother! Hua Shidu glanced at her and sat opposite her. Under his suit pants, his slender and abstinent legs were casually placed. His arm leaned loosely against the handle and he inched closer to her. Bei Yunj's ears tingled as the man laughed inappropriately. Child, tell me, what kind of tutor do you like? The man's posture was a little casual and bad, but Bei Yunj could feel that this question was not easy to answer. It was like a fatal question. A moment later, I like someone like brother. Chapter 74. After saying that, Bei Yunj even smiled reservedly. When the man heard this, his gaze was unfathomable. He leaned back lazily, his slender fingers gently tapping the armrest of the chair. After a while, Bei Yunj heard the man chuckle softly. It was so sexy that it was hopelessly sexy. All right then. The smile on Bei Yunj's face froze. 40 minutes later. Whole corporation. Bei Yunj sat on the sofa in the president's office. There were several homework books on the coffee table and a pen in her hand. There was also a bottle of milk beside her. The corners of Bei Yunj's mouth twitched. She could not help but look up at the man in the office. At this moment, Hua Shidu happened to be having an impromptu video conference. The higher-ups on the computer screen could feel the pressure from their president through the screen. The atmosphere was tense. Suddenly, Hua Shidu heard a sound not far away. He turned around and saw Bei Yunj picking up a pen. Looking at her bright eyes with a complicated expression, the man's thin red lips curled up imperceptibly. She was still a young lady after all. However, at this moment, the higher-ups who saw Hua Shidu's expression widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. They could not hear the commotion over there, but they could see President Hua's expression clearly. President Hua actually smiled. Why did they feel an inexplicable sense of doting? This smile was too charming. The female higher-ups all felt that their young hearts had been attacked for a long time. However, not long after, everyone suddenly realized that their president's background was the office. Wait a minute, could it be that President Hua brought her to the company? Suddenly, Hua Shidu's low voice sounded. We can begin. Instantly, Everyone came back to their senses and extinguished their gossipy hearts. They would find out sooner or later, but no one dared to be so reckless in President Hua's meeting. Not long after, the meeting began. Bei Yunj looked at the topic on the booklet and her eyelids twitched. Inadvertently, she looked up and saw Hua Shidu. She looked at the man's handsome and noble eyes. He was less careless and was holding a meeting in a refined and serious manner. Bei Yunj could not help but take a few more glances. Shortly after, a few minutes later, Hua Shidu also felt the gaze from the side. He listened to the report from the higher-ups and glanced at Bei Yunj. Seeing how serious she was, the man's gaze was fixed on her. His low and hoarse laughter tickled her ears. "What's wrong with Yun Yun? Don't keep staring at me." Bei Yunj, in an instant. For the first time, Bei Yunj felt that her ears were a little warm. She quickly lowered her head and began to write the questions to calm herself down. As for the executives, although they couldn't see Bei Yunj, they could see their CEO chuckling softly. Their hearts raced uncontrollably. Was President Hua trying to provoke her hormones today? His HP bar had been emptied. Seeing that Bei Yunj had started to do her homework obediently, Hua Shidu turned around and spoke in a lazy and cold tone. "Continue." "Okay, President Hua." The higher-ups' feelings today could no longer be described as complicated. They had never thought that their Xiu, the flower of the mountain, would be so flirtatious in private. That lazy tone seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally seductive, making people blush uncontrollably. Chapter 75. After the meeting. Seeing that Bei Yunj was doing her homework, Hua Shidu stopped teasing her. But not long after, Bei Yunj suddenly received a call. She glanced at Hua Shidu, who was working. She walked to the door. "What's wrong?" After Bei Yunj answered the call, she asked slowly, "B student Pei, have you gone online?" Chu Zhixing's expression was extremely ugly when he saw those comments online. Student Pei was such a good person. Why should she be ridiculed like that? What happened? A dark look flashed past Bei Yunj's eyes. Seeing that Bei Yunj really didn't know about this, Chu Zhixing gritted his teeth. "Everyone on the internet is saying that you're the daughter of the Qin family. Besides, the comments aren't very nice. Actually, more people on the internet were saying that Bei Yunj was the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. However, the Qin family deliberately covered it up, so Bei Yunj took advantage of it. And such a thing could be discussed by the public. Of course, it was because someone deliberately released the news to control the popularity. As for the person who did such a thing, other than Qin Youjiao, no one else would do it. After all, old Master Qin had just forced the Qin couple to publicly acknowledge their daughter yesterday. Today, bad news about her started to appear. You're quite capable. Bei Yunj snorted and leaned against the wall lazily. Chu Zhixing was confused and didn't know what Bei Yunj was talking about. I got it. Thank you. Bei Yunj's red lips curved, looking calm. You're welcome, Chu Zhixing said worriedly. Student Pei, let the Qin family settle this quickly. He saw that Qin Youjiao's fans had gone crazy and were insulting Bei Yunj everywhere. They accused Bei Yunj of snatching Qin Youjiao's things. They even dug out a lot of Bei Yunj's information and compared it with Qin Youjiao. They mocked her sarcastically. There was a huge difference between a pheasant and a phoenix. The Qin family? Bei Yunj laughed ambiguously, but there was no smile in her eyes. I got it. I'll hang up first. Chu Zhixing nodded. Not long after, Bei Yunj hung up the phone and went back to her office. Brother, can you lend me your computer for a while? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. Hua Shidu looked at his watch. Bei Yunj had been writing for more than an hour just now. The man nodded. Is a notebook okay? Anything is fine. Bei Yunj sat beside Hua Shidu and looked at him with a smile. Seeing this, the tip of the man's throat rolled, overflowing with a faint chuckle. He placed the notebook in front of Bei Yunj. After the break, I still have to continue writing. The man said casually. Bei Yunj. Within a few minutes, Bei Yunj logged into the social media app and saw the entry at the top of the list. Hashtag Qin family Bei Yunj. Hashtag her beautiful eyes curled up, but there was no emotion in her eyes. After clicking on it, she roughly flipped through the content. It was nothing more than a marketing account that had exposed her family background and her school situation. However, the most vicious people were Qin Youjiao's fans and a large number of righteous netizens. Even illegitimate daughters are causing trouble these days. Who is she trying to disgust? Goodbye. Is there something wrong with the Qin family's brains? People who can't be seen in public shouldn't appear in front of the public. It's an eyesore. Smile. Don't compare my Jiao Jiao to someone. My Jiao Jiao went on a piano tour when she was 19 years old. What about her? Ask if she's worthy first. Chapter 76. However much face Qin Youjiao can bring to the Qin family, a certain someone can bring shame to the Qin family. Congratulations to the Qin family for getting rid of the scourge. How disgusting. Do you think you're a phoenix just because you've climbed up the social ladder? Stay away from my Jiao Jiao. My heart aches for Jiao Jiao. The little princess who has been doted on by her brothers since she was young has to suffer this now. I hope her brothers will protect Jiao Jiao well. Ugh, if you like other people's things so much, why don't you die early and be reincarnated into a good family? Smile. Pei Yunj glanced at it and saw that someone had already uploaded her photo online. However, it was a photo of the original protagonist in school before she was reborn. Because she was not confident, the original protagonist almost covered her face with black-rimmed glasses and smeared her face in a strange way. She was wearing an inappropriate school uniform and looked like a weirdo. On the other hand, Qin Youjiao's fans deliberately compared this ugly photo with Qin Youjiao's exquisite photo, causing a large number of netizens to sigh. They were both daughters of the Qin family, but the difference between them was like heaven and earth. After reading this, Bei Yunj's lips curled up as she held her chin with one hand, the back of her fingers caressing her lips gently. Not too long later, Bei Yunj typed slowly on the keyboard and sent a message to the informant. Aren't you going to consider deleting the comment and apologizing? A certain newspaper reporter, who was happy and smug because he had just gotten a few 100,000 yuan, could not help but sneer when he saw this message. Where did such a meddlesome person come from? If he didn't delete the comment and apologize, what could this person do? At this thought, he laughed contemptuously and replied to Bei Yunj. What if I don't? Smile. What kind of joke was this? Someone had sent him a few 100,000 yuan just to post such a piece of news. Why should he delete it? Then, he replied to the comments section leisurely and fanned the flames, not caring about what trouble he would cause. After all, even if the Qin family wanted to go to court with him, public opinion was on his side now. At that time, who knew who would be scolded more harshly? At this thought, he glanced at Bei Yunj's chat and laughed mockingly. Where did this idiot come from? There were so many mouths online who had the ability to care. In the office, Bei Yunj couldn't help but laugh when she saw the arrogant reply from the marketing account. Her clear and melodious laughter attracted the gaze of the man beside her. What happened? I'm fine. Bei Yunj's smile disappeared. Her slender and beautiful fingers began to dance on the keyboard. Her eyes were unfocused and emotionless. Seeing this, Huoshidu was interested, but he did not intend to disturb the little girl from playing with the computer. 10 minutes later, a certain newspaper reporter, who was so happy that he wanted to go to the bank to withdraw money to count the money, was stunned and almost couldn't laugh anymore. What's going on? He looked at the mouse arrow on the screen and moved on its own. Then he stopped breathing. After he came back to his senses, he frantically tapped on the keyboard and clicked on the mouse. However, he could only see the arrow slowly entering his personal account, as if it was looking for something. F***CK? The newspaper reporter immediately had a bad premonition, and a chill ran down his spine. After coming back to his senses, he hurriedly made a phone call, wanting to seek help from his computer science friends. However, the next moment, the arrow on the screen suddenly stopped moving. When the reporter saw this, he was stunned for a moment. He thought that there was a bug just now, and then he heaved a sigh of relief. However, he didn't expect that before he could relax, he would see another line of words in the chat box just now. Chapter 77. Seeing this, the newspaper reporter's eyes widened and a chill ran from his spine to the back of his head. Who was this person? What was this person trying to do? So, the mouse arrow on the screen gave him the answer. His friend had just answered the call and asked him what had happened. However, his hands were trembling and his phone fell. He watched as the mouse arrow turned left and right slowly as if it was torturing him on purpose. Soon, the arrow found the sign to cancel the account. At this moment, he stood up suddenly and shouted anxiously. He grabbed the screen like he was crazy and shook it with all his might. No. Stop it now. The things on the computer table were all flipped to the ground by him. His face was pale and he smashed the screen with all his might, but he still saw the dialog box appear. Are you sure you want to cancel your account? That arrow directly clicked. Confirm. F***CK. The bespectacled man with a head full of feathers smashed the computer. He slumped onto the chair and rubbed his hair with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot. His account could bring him at least a few million yuan. But now he had lost his account because of a few 100,000 yuan. The bespectacled man even had the intention to kill someone and his face was filled with despair. He had worked hard for 4 to 5 years to build up his account. Within half an hour, several big accounts that used the same article to spread rumors about the Qin family and Bei Yunj received the same greeting. At first, no one took it seriously. In the end, dozens of big accounts disappeared. In the group chat of these big accounts, someone started to crazily at their friends who had not been blown up, telling them not to repost the things that were at the top of the trending searches. It was not worth it for the sake of popularity. It was not worth it to lose one's account. On the other hand, Qin Youjiao's fans and netizens who were about to fight to the end suddenly felt the abnormality at the top of the trending searches. They found that most of the big accounts had disappeared into thin air. What was going on? Many people could not help but be curious. They clicked on the list of people they followed and looked for the big accounts they followed. They found that several big accounts that they had followed before had disappeared. As for a few marketing accounts that had foresight, it was a good thing that they left a side account. However, they were all making strange movements. I'm sorry, Immortal, I was wrong, bye-bye. Let me go, brother. I apologize. I shouldn't have eaten the melon blindly. I'm turning over a new leaf. Stop staring at me. Fortunately, I have a smurf account. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me again. Don't ask me why my main account is gone. If you ask, I deserve it. From today onwards, please pay attention to social news and artists' works. Don't simply gossip. Heartbreak. The netizens and Qin Youjiao's fans were speechless. What was going on with these bloggers? Why did he look like he had been educated by society and had turned over a new leaf? After that, many people clicked on the first entry with doubts, wanting to see the comments inside. However, he discovered that it had been completely emptied. The netizens who saw this scene inexplicably felt that danger was approaching. They carefully exited the hot search and asked the bloggers what was going on. However, Qin Youjiao's fans refused to believe it and scolded her even more ruthlessly. But in the end, as soon as he sent it out, the phone automatically froze. Chapter 78. What's wrong with her? Is her phone broken? The girl who had just left dozens of comments for Qin Youjiao was instantly furious. Their fan group had even photoshopped a picture of her. They were prepared to scold that illegitimate daughter to the point of death. But at this time, she actually dropped the ball? This was too strange. The girl suppressed her anger. Seeing that the page could not be moved, she had no choice but to turn off her phone and restart it. However, a few minutes later, the girl restarted and found that she could not even click on her social media app. It was as if she had entered a period of censorship. Did I see a ghost? The girl was in disbelief. At the same time, thousands of people had the same feeling. Not to mention the netizens following the trend, they could not even post their idols on the leaderboards. What kind of strange situation was this? However, some people gradually regained their senses. The netizens who had entered the censorship period this time seemed to be following the trend in a certain trending topic. Suddenly, a scary thought appeared in their minds. They kept dispelling it, but they could not help but think about it. Although they did not want to believe it either. But what happened today was indeed inexcusable. There were many people who had been defamed online, but why did it have to be this family? So, as more and more people questioned them, the small accounts with verified accounts posted their updates again. F***CK, let's not say anything. Be careful with your words. I who have 4 phones have already tried it. As long as you don't include a certain word, abbreviation, or photo, you'll be fine. I'm a fan of Xianxia, so I'm brainless about unconfirmed things. I apologize for this. But are you crazy to ask me why I can't post a photoshopped photo? Question. I'm no longer a fan. Don't bother me. It's disgusting. I'm the last account. Whoever scolds the Qin family in my comment section again, I'll copy the Diamond Sutra and send you to hell tonight. Smile. Everyone was shocked to see that the marketing accounts that had lost their main accounts seemed to have turned over a new leaf. They frequently reposted some positive social news. Did these entertainment industry marketing accounts blow up their accounts until their brains weren't clear? An hour later. #censorship period #, internal testing system failure # and other terms made the headlines. Everyone wanted to discuss it, but they did not dare to go too far and could only say a few words. Son, this is really the first time I've seen such a big scene. Even capitalists aren't so ruthless. Where did this deity come from? I really want to eat melons, but I can't give up a melon field for a melon. Heartbreak. I've disconnected from the internet. What are you guys talking about? Haha, this is the first time I feel sorry for a keyboard warrior. Which big shot did they offend to be taught a lesson one by one? He's definitely a master in the computer field. But honestly, there are no more than 5 people in the country who can do this. However, they were all people who had achieved success and fame. I don't understand why they would do that. There was a lot of discussion online. Similarly, the company's technical personnel who were dealing with this matter were also suffering. Since 2 hours ago, people had been calling their customer service non-stop, asking them what was wrong with the system. However, they couldn't find anything even after repeated inspections. At this moment, their higher-ups were also discussing this matter. Actually, when this trending topic went up, they also felt guilty. After all, the victim of this cyber attack was a normal person. Chapter 79. However, it just so happened that a celebrity had caused a scandal during this period of time and the higher-ups wanted them to find a way to suppress it. Therefore, they turned a blind eye to the affairs of this ordinary person. After all, she was just an illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family. However, no one expected that the hot search of an illegitimate daughter would end up in this state. What do you think we should do? Have you found out who the culprit is? The management leader took a deep breath and massaged his temples. It was not that they had not screwed up before, but this was the first time they screwed up like this. It was scarier than capital. We haven't found out yet, but we can roughly guess who it is. The people from the technical department swallowed. Who is it? Those people from the National Computing Institute. The head of the technical department took a deep breath and said, if it was really those people, their company could not afford to offend them. After all, these people were at the top of the academic world. They were on the global news and were respected in every country. The management leader's expression did not look too good. They? Are you sure? In fact, they were partly responsible for this matter and it was difficult to pursue the matter. However, who would be able to take this lying down after such a huge mess was created? However, if it was really those people, they had to take it lying down even if they did not want to. Apart from them, where else can there be so many high-end talents in the country? The head of the technical department smiled bitterly. At the same time, in the corridor, Bei Yunch called Marcus. Not long after, Marcus picked up the call and asked, overwhelmed by the favor. Miss Pei, Why do you have time to look for our computing institute? Usually, he was the one who called Bei Yunj. I seem to have caused some trouble. Bei Yunj raised her beautiful eyebrows and her tone sounded harmless. Deputy Director, what should we do? Marcus was speechless. He should not have had any expectations of Bei Yunj. Marcus took a deep breath. What happened? He was a calm deputy director. It was okay. He could handle it. I made the headlines, Bei Yunj said gently. However, when Marcus heard this, he almost fainted from anger. He knew that this person dared to hack the website of their computing institute. There was nothing she could not do. However, afterward, when Marcus asked about the cause of the incident, he gradually became furious. Their precious member, who was treated like a golden nugget, was actually hacked by the entire internet. One had to know that in their country, talents like Bei Yunj were heavily nurtured and protected. This kind of bad news would be monitored by the higher-ups and would not allow these protected targets to be harmed in any way. I told you to immigrate, but you didn't. Do you know how well we treat our researchers? Marcus said angrily. Bei Yunj's attitude towards Marcus was not as cold as before. Instead, she laughed. Although this guy was usually carefree and undisciplined, when it came to this kind of situation, he was so protective that it made others speechless. Eating from the bowl while thinking about the pot. Marcus said eccentrically. Bei Yunj was speechless. She suspected that he deliberately learned these words to diss her. Chapter 80. There were more and more rumors about the headlines outside. The top computing institute in the country also knew about what happened today. The 5 or 6 suspects were also suspecting each other. In fact, a few minutes later, everyone immediately locked onto the target. Was it you? Was it you? You little brat, how dare you smash other people's headlines? The bureau chief roared angrily and slapped the back of the young man's head. The young man hugged his head, feeling wronged and afraid. He retorted in disbelief. Old master, can you be reasonable? Why must it be me? He really didn't do anything. Why are they suspecting me all of a sudden? You're the youngest person in the institute. You're the only one who chases celebrities. Thinking of this, the bureau chief with gray hair picked up the broom beside him and chased after him. How dare you quibble? How dare you say it's not you? The young man who had been beaten up felt extremely wronged. In the end, he hid in the office and held the door, not letting the bureau chief in. What kind of suffering was this? He was sitting at home, but trouble came from the sky? The young man didn't forget to struggle. It really wasn't me, old master. The female celebrity I like isn't this either. Moreover, the person who was attacked online this time is a normal person. I don't know her at all. The bureau chief's anger had mostly dissipated, but he was still skeptical. Although this fellow had never done anything particularly unscrupulous in the past, he had never done anything particularly reckless. But other than him who was unruly, it was impossible for the rest of the people in the institute to do that. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? The rest of the people in the institute who have this ability are already in their 40s or 50s. Who likes to surf the internet? Why must it be someone in our institute? The young man retorted instinctively. However, these words unexpectedly stunned the bureau chief. Not long after, he muttered to himself, "You're saying that it could be someone else?" Seeing that the bureau chief was finally willing to let him off, the young man was instantly delighted and immediately opened the door. That's right. When you catch that person, you can throw the broom at him." The young man was halfway through his anger when he was suddenly interrupted. "That's great." The bureau chief suddenly threw the broom away and laughed loudly to himself. As he turned to leave, he called someone. He was in high spirits. "Xiao Wei, go and ask that company if they can find her. We haven't had any fresh blood in the institute for a long time. Who knows, we might be able to find a new member this time." At the side, the young man who was completely ignored. What a terrible old man. If it was him, he would be beaten. If it was someone else, would he be so happy? The management leaders, who were in a deadlock because of the headlines, received a call. Hello, I'm Marcus, the Deputy Director of Country R's Computing Institute. After Marcus finished speaking, he was just about to ask someone to translate it for this person. But it just so happened that the management had studied abroad before, so there was no language barrier. Hello. Are you Mr. Marcus? The management leaders were excited and surprised. They found it hard to believe. Why would Marcus call him? Even if he wasn't in the computer field, he knew what kind of person Marcus was. He was one of the most respected researchers in Country R. Since you can understand, that's great. Is it convenient for you to have a video conference? I want to talk to you about your company's matters this time. Marcus' tone was cold and arrogant. Chapter 81. Our company's matter. The management leader's expression changed and his tone was a little slow. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Marcus did not intend to talk nonsense with him. When the management leader came back to his senses, he quickly nodded. Okay. Sure, please wait for a while. So, after he asked the people in the meeting room to leave, he immediately received a video call from Marcus. He looked nervous. Hello, Mr. Marcus. He smiled stiffly. Marcus laughed. I'm not very good. Marcus did not intend to waste time and asked directly, what's your position in the company? I'm the company's vice president. The vice president quickly said. Marcus glanced at him with a forced attitude and asked coldly, does your company know who is the person you used to block the scandal of your artist? When the vice president heard this, a premonition that made his scalp tingle grew stronger. Isn't it the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family? Marcus sneered. She's the most talked about member of our computing institute. What? The vice president looked up suddenly and his pupils shrank. A member of Mr. Marcus' Computing Institute. That was the world's top computing institute. What kind of joke was this? How old was that illegitimate daughter of the Qin family? The vice president felt ridiculous and laughed dryly. Mr. Marcus, are you kidding me? If I have time to tease you, I might as well do more research. The vice president was speechless. When Marcus thought of Bei Yunji's matter, he became angrier and smiled coldly. The members of our computing institute have always been the focus of our country's protection. Even in any country, they will receive the same protection and respect. However, your company is really bold to use our members to block the scandal of your artist? Suddenly, the vice president's scalp tingled. He really did not know that the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family had such a background. Mr. Marcus, you've misunderstood. This is an accident. The vice president did not want to offend these people from the top computing institute. One of them could cause chaos in their company. If they offended this group, they would automatically enter the internet industry's blacklist. Thinking of this, the vice president felt a chill run down his spine. She began to regret using Bei Yunji as a shield. It's not an accident. It's actually a good thing. Marcus suddenly smiled and continued, actually, our country really hopes that Miss Pei can immigrate to our nation. After all, a high-end talent like him is highly sought after everywhere. Marcus seemed to feel that these words were not stimulating enough and said gently, what you did today can be regarded as helping us. In the future, if Miss Pei really migrates here, all of you will have contributed greatly. When the vice president heard this, he felt terrible and nearly passed out on the spot. Mr. Marcus, don't joke. Our Miss Pei will definitely not emigrate. When the vice president thought about how he might be labeled as a traitor one day, he felt weak all over. No way. Bei Yunji must not immigrate. Otherwise, he would really be done for. Is that so? Marcus smiled. But speaking of which, Miss Pei really doesn't intend to emigrate. But this time, she seems to be quite unhappy. Chapter 82. Mr. Marcus, I'll handle this matter properly and apologize to Miss Bei Yunji. The vice president immediately replied. Upon hearing this, Marcus raised his eyebrows and did not provoke him further. Freeze the settings of the login software. It will be removed in 3 days. The vice president hurriedly nodded. Okay. It was fine if it was not removed, as long as that ancestor was happy. As for Miss Pei, I hope you won't say anything that you shouldn't say. She doesn't like these things, Marcus added. Don't worry, I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll have to trouble Mr. Marcus to deal with this matter personally. Marcus glanced at him and cut the video. Okay, I'll go back to work. Goodbye, Mr. Marcus. The vice president's smile stiffened. After the video ended, he lay paralyzed on the chair. So, someone knocked on the door. Vice President, about the headlines. The secretary asked cautiously. The vice president rubbed his face. Get someone to post a notice saying that there's a bug in the company. Oh yes, tell those people that in the future, anything related to Miss Bei Yunj can't be on the list. If they see her post, delete it. The secretary was stunned when he heard this. Didn't the vice president look down on the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family? This was treatment that even the famous artistes that the company worked with did not dare to receive. If the higher-ups ask about this, the secretary reminded him hesitantly. The vice president put on a fake smile. Miss Pei's reputation is the most important thing. If anyone has any objections, they can look for me. Soon after this matter was settled, the vice president sent someone to find out Bei Yunj's contact information. He had to apologize to this ancestor. Otherwise, if she really emigrated one day, he would become the person who added fuel to the fire of our nation's computing institute. Subsequently, to the vice president's surprise, he received a call from a big scientific researcher today. It was the director of the top computing institute in the country, a research fellow of the Academy of Science, Mr. Wang Lin. The vice president's hands were trembling. Why were there so many gods knocking on his door today? I heard that something happened to the headlines? Wang Lin asked with a smile. He really wanted to pretend that he couldn't hear the joy in his tone. How did you know? The vice president did not dare to lie to him. One had to know that the people this person usually came into contact with were all important figures that he didn't even have the chance to meet. Didn't some people suspect that it was done by our people? No, it's really not your place. The vice president thought that Wang Lin was here to cause trouble. However, the next moment he heard Wang Lin ask, "Then did you find out who did it? Come, tell me, who is this?" Wang Lin could not suppress his excitement. This was truly a talent that had been overlooked. No, he had to think of a way to recruit them. Hearing this, the vice president understood old Mr. Zhong's intention. But what made him hesitate was that he had just promised Marcus to keep his mouth shut. What's wrong? You can't reveal it? The vice president could tell that old Mr. Zhong's tone had turned cold. In his haste, he found a compromise. The vice president hurriedly smiled and said, "Yes, of course. That person is a member of our nation's Institute of Computational Technology. Just a moment ago, Mr. Marcus also called." As soon as he finished speaking, the voice on the other end suddenly became louder and louder. How could this be their person? Marcus, that old thing, came to my territory to snatch people? Chapter 83. It was probably the first time the vice president had heard a big shot tearing someone apart. Furthermore, he was so down to earth that he couldn't react in time. But he didn't need to react, because in the next moment, Wang Lin decisively hung up on him. The vice president was speechless. Half an hour later, Marcus had just finished his work when he saw dozens of missed calls on his cell phone. Was there something wrong with this old man? Marcus cursed in his heart, but he dialed the number back. After the call was connected, before he could speak, he heard Wang Lin's angry roar. Marcus, you don't think of yourself as a human anymore, do you? Are your country's scientific research seedlings extinct? Do you have to snatch them from me? After hearing this, Marcus took a long time to realize the reason for Wang Lin's anger. Oh, this old man had discovered Bei Yunj. When he thought of how Bei Yunj was so stubborn and refused to immigrate, Marcus felt jealous for the first time. A few days ago, he had also just found out that Bei Yunj had such a terrifying ability. She was only 18 or 19 years old. In time, when Bei Yunj grew up, wouldn't this old man be even more arrogant and smug? Marcus felt jealous. What right did this old man have? Subsequently, Marcus chuckled and said sarcastically, "Who can you blame for this? It's your fault for not being able to control her." Lin was speechless. Why was there an indescribable sense of familiarity in his tone? Lin coughed lightly and asked reservedly, "All right, what's the name of your new member? We can talk when you're free." Lin, do you take me for a fool? Don't get any ideas. You want to poach her? Dream on. Marcus sneered and hung up the phone decisively. But when he thought of Lin's shameless words just now, he couldn't help but scold him angrily. "Old man, you're shameless." At this moment, Lin's face darkened. He couldn't wait to buy a plane ticket to country or to fight with Marcus. This Marcus, does he think he's so great just because he won the Busaka Award 2 years ago? Lin was furious. "I heard that he was also nominated this year," the young man who was beaten up today said softly. The KZ Busaka Award was the most famous award in the computing world. If Marcus won another award this time, many people would use Country R's Computing Institute to trample on their Computing Institute. Lin glared at him. "You know that too? You're the most talented person in our institute, but you're still slacking at work every day. If you had worked hard, I wouldn't have had to suck up to that old bastard Marcus to snatch you." The young man was speechless. How could he be blamed for this? Even if he did research to death, he wouldn't be able to catch up to Marcus in 6 or 7 years. The inspector, the Bushiza's Busaka. Lin rolled his eyes and said angrily, "Snatch? That guy Busaka bushes to Lu, but I'm curious too. I don't know how powerful this new member is to make Marcus so nervous." The young man shrugged. "Isn't that easy to find?" He saved the damsel in distress and stood up for the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. "If you contact that person from the Qin family, won't you have a clue?" "That's right. How could I forget?" Lin's eyes lit up. Monday. Bei Yunj had just arrived at school when she felt the strange gazes from the people around her. Before she entered the classroom, she could hear the discussions inside. Damn, no wonder Bei Yunj is so arrogant. So she's not a poor relative, but the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. Chapter 84. So what if she's an illegitimate daughter? Even the real young ladies aren't like her. Someone laughed sarcastically. "Sai, you're wrong. The more indecent a person's identity is, the more they like to cause trouble. As long as Qin Yojiao plays the piano, everyone will know that she's the top socialite." Another voice said disdainfully, "As for those with shameful identities, they can only rely on claptrap." That's right. Yojiao's brothers dote on her so much. As for someone, she's probably just someone who gets despised. When Bei Yunj walked to the door, she had heard most of these words. However, Bei Yunj did not expect to hear the sound of tables and chairs colliding before she walked in. Chu Zhixing's angry voice sounded. "What right do you have to talk about Bei Yunj? At least, Bei Yunj has never insulted people behind their backs." Hearing this, Bei Yunj, who was at the door, froze. Previously, Chu Zhixing had said that he wanted to follow her. However, she was not an easy person to get along with, so she rejected him directly. However, she did not expect Chu Zhixing to speak up for her at this time. So, a few chattering girls blushed and glared at Chu Zhixing. Someone laughed coldly. "Disgusting. I didn't expect there to be Bei Yunj's lapdog here. We're not qualified? Doesn't Bei Yunj want to be talked about by everyone?" Another pure-looking girl said harshly, "What right does she have to snatch Qin Yojiao's things? She should take a look at herself first." At this moment, the girl's words became sharper and sharper, but they did not notice that Bei Yunj had casually brushed a strand of her black hair behind her back. Her slender and fair index finger twirled and played with it as she walked over leisurely, her beautiful eyes raised lazily. "Continue." The moment Bei Yunj's voice sounded, several girls who were talking behind their backs froze and their faces paled. It was as if they did not expect Bei Yunj to come so early. Xiao Chu, are you two free? Bei Yunj walked up to Chu Zhixing and asked calmly. When Chu Zhixing heard this, he thought that Bei Yunj was blaming him for being a busybody. His entire body froze. But the next moment, the beautiful and ostentatious girl sneered lazily, warm-hearted good citizen? We have to take care of all the animals in the school. Chu Zhixing came back to his senses. He pursed his lips and tried very hard to hold back his laughter. As for the girls, their faces turned red and green. Bei Yunj, what do you mean? Classmate, don't misunderstand. That's what you think it means. Bei Yunj sat in her seat. Her tone was polite, but her words were as impudent as her personality. The girl glared at Bei Yunj and gritted her teeth. Suddenly, a voice came from the door. What's with the noise? What are you all arguing about? Everyone turned around and saw that it was the dean. He glanced at everyone with a dark expression. I heard your voices from the corridor. Did you all get full marks for the college entrance examination? Bei Yunj turned her head and gave Chu Zhixing a few candies. Then she pulled up her hat and got ready to sleep. But in the dean's eyes, this scene was a thorn in his side. This Bei Yunj was even more unscrupulous than Lu Yanxi. Bei Yunj, what are you planning to do? I'm crying. I was scolded by my classmates just now and I'm quite upset. Bei Yunj finished speaking slowly and fell asleep on the table. The girls, the dean's face turned ashen. Chapter 85. However, at the thought of Bei Yunj's identity, the dean suppressed his anger and only glanced at Bei Yunj in disgust before he left with a cold expression. No wonder she was only acknowledged by the Qin family when she was already so old. The Qin family probably felt that they couldn't afford to lose face. Everyone in the school knew that Qin Youjiao was a fair, rich, and beautiful girl with excellent results. And because Bei Yunj had injured Qian Qingjun, she was quickly recognized by everyone. Therefore, in Hengda High School, almost everyone felt that Qin Youjiao and Bei Yunj were worlds apart. Not long after the dean left, Bei Yunj took off her hat and flipped open her extracurricular book. There was an iPad inside. Student Bei Yunj, didn't you want to sleep? Chu Zhixing could not help asking when he saw that Bei Yunj was awake. I can't sleep, Bei Yunj said. Chu Zhixing immediately understood that Bei Yunj just didn't want to see the dean. After the first period ended, seeing that Lu Yuanxi had returned, everyone had different thoughts. Many people glanced at Bei Yunj gloatingly. Who didn't know that Lu Yuanxi liked Qin Youjiao? The others would take into account the Qin family or Bei Yunj's past actions and wouldn't dare to have a conflict with Bei Yunj. But Lu Yuanxi wouldn't. At this moment, everyone's eyes could not help but secretly glance at Lu Yuanxi and Bei Yunj. Even Chu Zhixing became nervous. They saw Lu Yuanxi walk in front of Bei Yunj expressionlessly. Are you done with your homework? Let me copy it. Lu Yuanxi seemed to have just woken up and his tone was slightly low. Why don't you borrow it from others? Bei Yunj furrowed his eyebrows. Lu Yuanxi said matter-of-factly, it's more suitable to copy from people of similar standards. Bei Yunj threw the homework on his table and couldn't be bothered to say anything. However, seeing this scene, everyone else was stunned. Why didn't Lu Yuanxi find trouble with Bei Yunj and even seem to have a good relationship with Bei Yunj? Ling Jiwei, who had found trouble with Bei Yunj before, couldn't help saying in a sharp tone, Yuanxi, don't you know her identity? In the past, Lu Yuanxi was the most protective of Qin Youjiao. But now, he actually didn't care that Bei Yunj stole Qin Youjiao. He was closer to Bei Yunj than anyone else in class. Lu Yuanxi glanced at her indifferently and returned to his seat. Seeing that Lu Yuanxi was ignoring her, Ling Jiwei shouted with a sharp voice, she's the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. Lu Yuanxi's gaze gradually turned cold. He slowly looked at her and sneered, what does that have to do with me? He had known this for a long time. Bei Yunj. Of Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Qin, Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Bei. Moreover, his new desk mate was much more pleasing to the eye than those girls who gossiped every day. Although his temper was quite bad. Bei, to Yunj, to Yunj. To Yunj Bei. Bei Yun. Yunju's Bei Yang Yudo Wa. Seeing Bei Yunj looking at her, Ling Jiwei suppressed her inexplicable fear and questioned, "Aren't you?" Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow, as if she had suddenly thought of an interesting joke. Illegitimate daughter? That seems to be easier to accept than Miss Qin's identity. These words immediately caused the others to be confused. What did Bei Yunj mean? However, Li Wenxi's hands stopped and his eyes darkened as he glanced at Bei Yunj. But in the next second, everyone's thoughts were interrupted by the girl running in from outside. Student Liu, Yojiao is hiding in the washroom and refusing to come out. I'm worried that something will happen to her. Could you please? You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.